Here's everything you need to know about the ATR report on Edgeful.com. So starting out, we're looking at YM in the last 6 months in the New York session. This is really important that we're looking at the New York session because we are taking only the price action within this New York session to calculate the ATR. So right now, we'll always have the ATR right over here, and we are using always the previous day to compare if today will exceed or not. So let me get into exactly what that means, but it's just a very important note. So right now, let's say that the ATR is 500 points. And what this day shows is that the range was almost 1,000 points yesterday on the YM. So that means if the ATR was 500, that once the range of today, the high and the low, exceeded 500, this day would count as exceeded ATR. So what this report looks at is how often does price today in this session exceed the ATR. And what you can see is that on the 7-day ATR period, you can customize this. Some people like 14, some people like 5. You can customize it here. 7-day ATR will be respected. That means that price will stay within the ATR 70% of the time in the last 6 months. So let's use a real example now. The current 7-day ATR on YM as of yesterday is 655 points. So if today stays within 655 points from the high to the low of the day, that would mean that today respected ATR, which falls into this category. If today goes 800 points from the high to the low, that would be exceeded. So the way to use this report is to say how much of ATR has been crossed, or what is the range of today and where is that relative to ATR, because if you know that 70% of the time it's going to respect, which means it will stay, the high and the low of the day will be within 655 points, that is a great area, let's say you're long, to take profits in that 600 point area. This, if you're not long, this is also a great report to use to catch reversals, because you don't really want to expect the price to exceed, obviously, ATR that often. 7 out of 10 times it's not going to. So that will help you catch reversals as price comes close to that ATR. So in an example like yesterday, this actually exceeded the ATR. This was almost 1,000 points. So let's look at even before. So this also exceeded. And let's try to find a different one here. So this was a day where it respected. And let me show you why. When you're going from the New York session, you are checking here 377 points. Right now I'm using the market sessions indicator on Edgeful. This is part of the subscription. If you want access to the TradingView indicators and NinjaTrader indicators, right over here you're going to click. So for TradingView, you click on this, and then you're going to see you need to enter your TradingView username right over here. And from there, you're going to find your TradingView username right over here. And then once you put that in, you're going to see in your invite only all of them appear. The one that I'm using right now is the market sessions. So this would be a day where price respected. And then this is obviously these 2 days price exceeded. So this helps you understand the boundaries of the price action and the range that is possible for today. So now, looking at the by weekday, obviously this is very similar. We're just filtering for specific weekdays, so you can clearly see that different weekdays behave very differently. So Fridays are much more likely to exceed the ATR, whereas, for example, Thursday is not nearly as likely to exceed the ATR. So 84% of the time in the last 6 months, price will respect on a Thursday. So that gives you a much, much stronger reversal target when price is coming into that ATR. Then Fridays, maybe days where you want to hold on to runners, where you want to expect more continuation, you can maximize your trades, your winners, by expecting price to continue. So that is the by weekday version. Now the range to ATR, the sub-reports over here. Range to ATR is what is the average price will move relative to the ATR. So let's use 100. If the ATR is 100, just on any given day, if the ATR is 100, what is the average that price will go relative to that 100-point ATR? So you can see your targets can be at around that 80-point move from the high to the low of the day on a Tuesday. Whereas on a Wednesday, you can expect more often for price to exceed that ATR. And the typical move, the average move, is 104% of whatever the ATR is. So if the ATR is 1,000, that would be greater than 1,000 points for the total ATR. If it's 100, it's going to be 105 points. It's going to be greater than whatever that ATR is. Now, what's important about these averages is that if one day, like let's look at this Wednesday here, if one of the days went 200% or 300% of the ATR, that's going to drag up the average. So I always recommend looking at this on a shorter time frame from 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, and really exploring what the possibilities are and like what's actually happening in this market environment right now, because it will change pretty drastically and you always want to keep up with the most recent market trends. But overall, this sub-report is going to show you if ATR is 100, what is the average that you can expect for price to move relative to that ATR? Now, it's always a percentage of the ATR. So if price today moves 80 points, that would be 80% of a 100-point ATR. Then by streak, what this looks at is based on what happened yesterday, what is likely to happen today. So this report, you can see right over here, this day obviously exceeded ATR. It's almost 1,000 points. And based on that, what is expected to happen today? So you can see ATR exceeded yesterday. This falls on, like, that would be a true in this case. And then now you can see that almost 70% of the time, ATR will be respected today based on that. Now, if ATR was respected yesterday, which means that price was less than the ATR, the range was less than ATR, 71% of the time it was respected. So this is something where you can expect to use if yesterday was a very big outsized move. Like this, obviously, 2 back-to-back days that exceeded ATR is very unlikely. So in this case, obviously this is an anomaly day, but overall, if you see that ATR was respected yesterday or exceeded yesterday based on YM's data, you can expect it to respect today or stay within the ATR. So if ATR is 100 points, you can expect price to stay the range, the high to low of the day, to be 80 points. Then the by extension. This is actually very interesting and this is perfect. So you can see here the total range was close to 1,000 points. If ATR is 600, what is it? Let me go back to my standard report here. 650 points. You can see here, let me just get my, you can see right down here, yesterday, or the March 31st, which was this day here, exceeded by 110%. So the previous day's ATR was 472. Obviously, this is not considering this 1,000-point move. So right here is where you're going to see it went 110% of the previous day's ATR. And you can see each of these days here. So very, very important caveat here. This is only checking the excess piece. So this is actually an important note. So let me plot this out so you guys can see this. So 472 points from the high, from the low. 472 was the ATR. So this is actually really important. Now, what this is saying is it went more than double in excess. So here, I'm going to go from here. So another 472 would be right over here. So it went 110% in excess. So if the ATR is 472, which it obviously was, it went another 472 on top, which is obviously not very likely. Whereas this day, the 23rd, so this is only, by the way, this is only checking days that exceeded ATR, so, or the 26th. So here, you can see that the ATR on that day was 485, So 485 right over here. And then it only exceeded, like this extension was only 5% more. So in this case, that would be this little piece right here. And that's always relative to whatever the ATR is. So in this case, the average ATR extension, so let's just say ATR is 100 points. For every day that exceeds it, it'll go 40 points more. That's the easiest way to explain it. If ATR is 100 points, every day that exceeds ATR, typically the average will be if the total range of the day is 140 points. So that's the way that you can think about this report here. Now, this is a crate. Obviously, you do not want to expect this to happen. This is very unlikely, 425. Now, this is the single highest extension, but this is where you want to start to target if price exceeds ATR. This is giving you some sort of range in excess of ATR. So if you have any questions on this, please reach out to our support. This applies to stocks, futures, crypto, Forex. It applies to any of the sessions. It doesn't matter. Please reach out to us with any questions. If this video is helpful, subscribe to the YouTube. Appreciate it. Have a good one.